Well, this project came to a stop because if you look really closely, that's cracked. That's no good. So I've ordered an OEM one for that saw, and I believe it's going to get a different top end. I've got the highway one on order, and I think this one needs a better top end. Since this project has come to a stop until I get some parts to make it really nice, it's a perfect time to start my 390 montage. And the first thing I got to do with it is generate some parts. I call it saw mining. I've got a bunch of that I've got to break down, so I think that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to stop this project here until I get a different band and possibly a better top end, and then move to the 390s, bust down a few of them, come up with some cases and some parts, but just get a inventory of parts that I can draw from to start building junk saws, project saws. Well, I'm not quite sure what to call this video. I've got a bunch of this 385, 390 stuff around. Some of them with not very good cases, like that one there. It's got, you know, some repairs. But this set of cases looks pretty good. You know, this one looks alright. So I got some cases. Who knows how those cranks are, I just don't know. And I suspect all of them probably had bearing issues. That's usually what killed those. But I need to start scrambling some eggs and making up some saws. That's going to be a dead saw salvage project right there, I think. But right now, let me see what I've got here. What I want to do is I want to break these cases apart and see if I can't come up with a couple of good sets of cases and use that as the starting point to build a junk pile saw. Now, the dollars and cents. Yeah, you're going to hear the wind in the background. It's brutal out today. Absolutely brutal. Let me see if I can get the camera on the window. Yeah, it's like high single digits, low teens. And there's a steady 35 to 40 mile an hour wind with gusts that go past 50 today. Typical, you know. We got some storms coming in. Perfect day to work on saws, don't you think? Alright, let's see what we have. Now I've got this set of cases right here, which looks fairly complete. Flywheel, and I've got the ignition and all the parts that came off that saw in this box. So I'm going to put that. So that saw right there is complete, with the exception of a good top end. And I think I'm going to use this top end. This is off a 390, 55 millimeter. So that's a saw right there. That's one. The rest of that saw is in this box. Here's the old top end. It's no good, but top cover and ignition and all that stuff. There's one saw. I think this is a salvageable top end here. I just need a piston, carburetor, filter holder, and all that. Muffler. I don't think that one's salvageable, so that's junk. Cases. I mean, you got a handle here, it looks like it's alright. And this one right here. I'm not seeing anything catastrophic looking on the cases. Oh, this one's shot. Take a look inside. The crank is busted and it beat a hole in the crank right in the case right there. So I'm going to have to strip this for parts. You know, things like the chain brake and top cover and handle is going to come off of this one. And this one here, it's got that ugly thing. But it's also a complete saw. So we'll see what I have for a top end on that. That leaves this bottom end. So if I can get bearings in this bottom end, it looks pretty complete. Got a pull start. The handle is shot, so I'll have to pick a handle from somewhere else. How about this handle off this saw right here onto that bottom end, ignition and the good parts off of this, side cover and clutch. With maybe a top end. Alright, between this stuff here I've got a saw. So anyway guys, this is how stuff like this starts, you know. I got probably $300 into all this stuff. It was a guy who had a bunch of them in his barn, and it was a logger type, and they were worn out in his mind. They all came to a stop, and the local dealer made it so expensive to try to repair them that they became a liability, and he wasn't going to put any more money into them. So I walked in and offered him 3 bills and walked out with this. Actually, a couple more. I gave a couple to Bob, or Spike 60. So I actually had gotten 5 saws out of this set, okay, for about 300 bucks. Well, not 5 saws, 5 carcasses, some of which are complete, some of them which aren't. Some of them are catastrophic and can't be saved, and some of them are savable. But the bottom line is I got stuff to work with here, you know what I'm saying? The place I want to go with this is we spent a lot of time on building aftermarket saws. You know, that's cool. You can get a box of new parts and construct a saw for a low dollar amount. I started looking at what I have. That's before I even think about what Bob has in terms of access to saws, and thought about it for a little bit. And what if I could do the same kind of a build, the same class of saw, but use all OEM parts, and even buy new parts tactically to fill in the blanks? Could I do a 90cc saw for under $400? Well, I'm not going to say that everybody can go out and spend $300 and come up with this pile of parts. I will say that you could probably get a good carcass for under $200 and then spend another $200 on parts, OEM parts even, and end up with a very, very solid saw with the same level of skill required to put together those aftermarket part saws. The difference is this, and there's one huge difference, and that is all the aftermarket part saws look nice. You're dealing with clean parts. And with these old saws, you have this grime and dirt, and sometimes that's just a real problem to get things cleaned. Probably spend more time on the cleaning side than I actually would do on the building side, just as a thought. You know, in a situation like this, I'm just going to assume that I have to get right to the bearings. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of time cleaning the cases and stuff up front. I'm just going to dig in and break them down. And then what I can do is maybe today is get a couple of the cases all cleaned up and set some new bearings in there. And the reason I say maybe today is because my parts cleaner has been out here. It's been single digits. So when I dip them into the cleaning fluid, it's not like it's going to be, you know, the way it normally is. It's going to be like grease. Well, it's going to be more like oil, let's put it that way, because the stuff is going to be single digits. It's not going to clean the cases as quickly as it would, say, in the summertime. And that's just the reality. What I'm going to do now, you've seen enough of my teardown videos where you don't really need to see me take apart a saw. You can go over and look at one of those bolt-by-bolt types to do that. What I will do is shut the camera off, turn the heater on so I don't freeze my ass off, and then take these cases, the ones that I think are pretty good, and break them down and see if I can salvage a pair of cases. And when I get them to the point where I can look at them, then I'll turn the camera back on. Is that fair? If you don't like that format, give me feedback. Say, no, I want to see you take every freaking bolt out of those things. And then maybe what I'll do is on the next video is I'll just put it on fast forward and take the bolts out, and you'll just see that hands going like this like crazy trying to get stuff apart. But I want to focus on the general concept of this versus the specifics. Because my hunch is, by now, if you've seen enough of my saw videos, you know how to put bearings in a set of cases, you know, using the heat method. A saw is a freaking saw. It doesn't matter if I'm doing it with a 372 or 066 or MS 660. The physics of moving aluminum and steel parts together is the same. It really is. The specifics may change from saw to saw, but really the basic concepts are already there. Now, on these 385s, the layout of those is so similar to a 372. If you've seen a 372 video, you've got the basics on how to work on a 385. I mean, there's a couple little differences. All right, on the 385, I don't know if you can hear me over the heater, you've got these pins that kind of limit the travel for the handle relative to the cases. 1, 2, 3, which you do not have on a 375. You only got one of those. Oh my God. It's been a favorite tool for a long time. Had to use that to bust loose that case, that cover screw. That's the first. That right there. Four millimeter for most of it, 5 for the muffle bolts. The wire goes underneath. Now remember I said there was 2 pins, locating pins. You know, they work. They just sort of limit the travel. There's another one right here. Raw materials going on right here. That's what this should be called. Look at that. Look at them damn things. I think it's got a nylon cage bearing. I bet they all did. I bet that's why they died. Boy, I hate those things. Well, if you listen in the background, you'll hear the wind. So, you know, I got some stuff here. I got two nice set of cases, I think. And I've got one junker. So, what my plan is I'm going to take the junker one first, because I didn't really see anything wrong. Yeah, see, they put Bondo on it, but when I look on the inside, I don't understand why they did that. It doesn't seem like it needs it. It don't look bad in there. I don't see what the problem was. What I'm going to do is turn that one into a running saw. And then I'll build a nicer saw with some of the other parts, and then I'll build the nicest saw last with OEM parts. You know what I'm going to do? I don't know if anyone has any interest. What I'll do is I'll build this saw, and then I'll turn around and flip it for like 300 bucks. and it'll have a new bearing on the PTO side. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet. At least have a new seal. And it may have a used top end, but I figure just to make the point, if a guy gets a pile of junk and I turn around and sell this for $300, that means I've paid off what I have into the junk pile. And you have to figure that into it, right? So yet again, this is a comparison versus buying brand new shiny aftermarket parts. This is what you get if you're willing to do grunt work, elbow grease work. Now I've got a lot of cleanup to do here, you can tell. Plus I got to clean up my bench before I start building saws. I can't leave it like that, of course. Now we'll look at the other side of the garage. Doing major construction here, by the way. I'm going to build a shop. It's been like that for a couple days.